Who's ready for another great scary story from the dark depths of the creepy forest?
The reflection that watched back in the quiet suburbs of Millbrook, Claire moved into an old rental house at the edge of town. It was unremarkable except for a massive antique mirror mounted in the living room. The landlord had one strict rule: never move the mirror. On her first night, Claire noticed something odd. She thought she saw movement in the mirror, shadows flickering at the edges of her vision. Shrugging it off as exhaustion, she avoided looking at it, turning her couch away and keeping busy. But the disturbances grew. At night, she heard faint tapping, like knuckles on glass, always from the living room. Once, she stood before the mirror, watching her breath fog the surface, until her reflection blinked when she hadn't. Terrified, she covered the mirror with a sheet. The next morning, it was folded neatly at the base of the frame. Shaken, Claire confided in her neighbor, Mrs. Talbot, who blanched at the mention of the mirror. "That house is cursed," Mrs. Talbot warned. "The last tenant fled. She swore the mirror watched her." Mrs. Talbot told her about a family who'd once lived there. The father had bought the mirror at an estate sale, and soon after the family grew paranoid, claiming the mirror showed them things, until none of them survived. "It's just a mirror," Claire muttered, though unease gnawed at her. That night, Claire dreamt of the mirror. Her reflection grinned at her before pressing a hand against the glass, sending icy coldness into her chest. She woke gasping, drenched in sweat. Determined to rid herself of the nightmare, she grabbed a wrench and approached the mirror. Her reflection didn't move as she neared. It simply stared, its eyes unblinking. "Don't," it whispered. Claire froze as her reflection pressed its palms to the glass. The air grew heavy. The figure in the mirror tilted its head. "Why do you want to leave me?" it asked, its voice a distorted echo of her own. The room plunged into darkness. The mirror began to glow faintly. Claire screamed as her reflection stepped out of the frame, its shadowy form lunging at her. The next day, Mrs. Talbot noticed Claire's curtain still drawn. Worried, she knocked but got no answer. The police found the house empty, save for one thing. The mirror now hung in the center of the living room wall, spotless and gleaming. Claire's face stared out from the glass, her expression frozen in a silent scream.
If you have not already, like, subscribe, and hit the notifications button.